Hello, 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 everybody. This is Omari Kamal, CEO and founder of CEO and founder. That's what I mean to say. P&G Advisors. It's great to be with you again on this edition of the Index Live Podcast. It's great to be with you all. Thank you so much for the feedback, the wonderful feedback that we've been receiving on our monthly webinar and our weekly podcast. And the intention is that each and every week we would come to you with fresh, new, exciting content that will be useful for you in the growing of your small business or mid-sized business, and likewise that it will be profitable to you. So P&G Advisors, if you're not familiar with us, is really, as the name would suggest, we are all about profit and growth. We are fundamentally a bookkeeping firm and a tax advisory firm, or I should say fundamentally, that's where we start with many of our clients. But our core offering and what all roads essentially lead to are our advisory practices, where we look to help your business, as the name would suggest, be profitable and grow. That's what P&G stands for, by the way, profit and grow. And you can check us out online at profitandgrowth.com. And we'd love to have you. So that said, we're just going to give people a couple of minutes to get themselves tuned in and locked in, and we'll get started in just a little bit. We may even have, I believe we're going to have a special guest here today, provided our schedules and technology align. So more to come. I'm excited to introduce my dear friend Mike Sherrick, if he is willing to join us, or if he's able to join us. So let's sit tight for a couple of minutes, and we will get going. Okay, well, I think we're going to let's just get to it. So that said, we're going to continue along in the value builder construct. And again, for those of you who are not familiar, there are 3 books that we buy for each of our clients. One of them is called Profit First by Mike McCallum. Excuse me, I just had a brain freeze there. Profit First by Mike McCallum. The second is Built to Sell by John Warlow. And the third book is called Traction. And we actually are working on a 4th book that we call Business K. So think 401k, but not 401k. This is Business K. Business K in parentheses. And the subtitle is How to Turn Your Business into Your Personal Retirement Plan. And what we suggest is that your business is the very best investment you'll ever make. It's not your house, it's not real estate, it's not stocks, it's not bonds, it's not mutual funds, and I'm not putting down any of those things. I love all of those things, but the best investment we suggest that you will ever make is you and your business and your ideas. The only thing that you need is a framework for how to structure it in such a way that it grows, it is an asset to you, and that it works as hard as you, or for you rather, works as hard for you as you've worked for it. And as simple as that sounds, it's not that simple. And what Business K does is really take the essence of all of the core philosophies that and principles that we picked up along the way, and it puts them into one book. So eventually, instead of buying 3 books, we'll buy 1 book, and we totally recommend all of those other books. But our book is designed to be a distillation, if you will, a compilation of all of the principles that we believe will be useful for you in turning your business into your own personal retirement plan. But with that said, again, we believe wholeheartedly in the principles. In these 3 books, these are our 3 favorites, and there are lots of other ones that we'll recommend in future live episodes and podcast episodes and webinars. But for now, we're driving hard within the Built to Sell value builder construct. And what I want to talk to you about today is the hub and spoke owner. So what is hub and spoke for those of you who aren't familiar? So what Built to Sell and its corresponding consulting model value builder believes is, and we borne this out to be true, is that there are 8 fundamental drivers of value. Okay, mostly when we talk about valuing a business, we only think about the one driver, how profitable it is, what is your performance. But there are at least 7 other drivers besides that. Like, for example, there's what we call the Switzerland effect, which essentially asks and answers the question, how dependent is your business on any one employee, any one customer, any one vendor? If your business is overly dependent on one of those 3 things, you have a problem. Number 3, does your business have a recurring revenue model? Businesses that have recurring revenue models are way more valuable and valued a much higher multiple than businesses that don't have recurring models. And you don't care what your business is, it's completely possible. And we've seen this again borne out over a great many number of examples. There is no business on the planet that cannot have a recurring revenue model associated with it. And we encourage you to, at least for a portion of it, have recurring revenue built into your business model. That's number 3. Number 4 is customer satisfaction. How satisfied are your customers with you? And do you have a process that is consistently, actively engaging them? The best sounding board that you will ever have is not a coach, it's not an accountant, it is your customers. And when you find out what your customers are needing, what they want, what's missing for them, their feedback on your various services and offerings, products and such, that's gold. Okay, what you want to have it be an intentional thing, not an afterthought. Growth potential. Growth potential is number 1, how strong is your business? How strong is your sales and marketing systems? And number 1, number 2 is the space that you're operating in. Is your industry, is it expanding or is it contracting? Okay, and it's not a deal breaker if it's contracting. You just want to have some plan, some strategy for growing in spite of the fact that the industry as a whole might be declining. There's a mechanism we call the value teeter-totter, and what basically all that asks is, do you get more of your money on the front end or do you get it on the back end? Okay, as you might imagine, it's our recommendation that you try as best you can to get more of your money on the front end as opposed to on the back end. That'll ultimately get you a higher multiple, a higher valuation for your business. And then there's this thing called hub and spoke. Hub and spoke essentially measures the degree to which your business runs through you. There's an old saying, it says, the more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable your business is. I'm going to say that again. The more valuable you are to your business, the less valuable that your business is. And so these are the 8 key drivers. And we have a way, and I'll talk to you about this in just a little bit, of assessing your strength, your relative strength in each of those areas. And there's a really great tool that I'll provide you with that will allow you to assess where your small business is and what are some of the ways in which you can begin to increase your score and likewise increase your value by increasing that score. But in each one of those areas is a critical area that will provide a tremendous amount of value to your small business. But the one area, and this is the area that we're going to talk a lot about today, and what I believe is a very, very powerful solution to that driver, is traction. Remember, the third book that we buy for our clients is called Traction. So, and we're going to have an expert on traction here in a little bit. So that said, but let's get into hub and spoke. And let me just deal with something here. Okay, Mike's saying, oh, my stuck with the train. Okay, good. All right, so let's talk about hub and spoke until Mike gets here. So let's get into this. So this is the report, and I'm going to put the link in the chat. Bear with me here just a second for the Value Builder report if you want to get one of these for yourselves. But like it says, that this is an owner-friendly report, and over 80,000 business owners have completed one so far. And just to back up a half a step, what do we do? What do we do for our clients with this report, and what do we do for our clients in general. So we have a few major suggestions. So again, like I said, we are primarily a bookkeeping firm. We perform taxes, but the only reason why we do those things is to give our clients a clear platform and a foundation in order to have a much deeper and what we believe is a more useful conversation, which is to um, know what their business is worth. Why is that so important? See, what we find is that most small business owners start their businesses because they're passionate about something, because they're really good at something, and they couple either their passion or their skill or both with this idea of not wanting to work for anybody, not wanting to work a job anymore. But what happens oftentimes is that they trade in one job for 10 jobs, 100 jobs. And they don't realize oftentimes until they get into the running of their business that uh, that entrepreneurship is a business unto itself. Oh, and I'm sorry, I realized I wasn't sharing you my screen. Here's the report. Here's the report I was referencing. That they're running, that entrepreneurship and running a business is its own skill set. And part of our work, a big part of our work, is taking our small business owner clients by the hand and walking them through the various spaces that they inevitably have to go through in order to become what I'm going to call a real entrepreneur. And what I mean by a real entrepreneur is the same thing that Michael Gerber, if you haven't read his book, I highly recommend it as well. It's called The E-Myth, and the E-dash myth. And one of the things that he suggests is that most people who call themselves entrepreneurs aren't really entrepreneurs. They are technicians having an entrepreneurial seizure. And hang on for just a second. I'm going to put the questionnaire link in the chat. Okay, and there you have it. Okay, and so what we believe fundamentally is that that once you figure that out, and once you figure out, as Michael Gerber has suggested, that there are three distinctions. There are technicians, which are the people who do the work of a business. There are managers, or people who create and manage the systems that are associated with the work that those technicians do. And then there are entrepreneurs. And if you haven't heard of Michael Gerber, you haven't heard of the E-Myth, you've certainly heard of his famous saying, look, work on your business as opposed to in your business. And that's how he defines the small business, the real entrepreneur, so to speak. Somebody who works on their business and in their business. And he doesn't say that like that's how it has to be if you're an entrepreneur, but he certainly does create that gap in such a way to say, hey, look, you want to get to the point where your work is primarily on strategy and management, and the work of the business is actually being done by others. That's the real job of an entrepreneur, not to do the work themselves, but to create work for others to do. So what our work is really about is helping small business owners get to the point where they are out of the hub and spoke trap. Because this is what we found. All of those 8 drivers that I went over with you earlier are key in the process of understanding where you are and likewise where you want to be in terms of exiting your business. Now, a lot of our clients will say, like, look, I don't want to exit my business. I never want to sell. And what we suggest to them is that, no, you're going to exit at some point or another. Now, our intention is that you would exit as a matter of choice as opposed to being forced to exit, but you will exit at some point or another. And our advice is not to wait until the 11th hour or some external circumstance in order to do that. And I see you, Mike. Welcome, man. Thank you so much for being here. But and all of those key drivers are important, right? Recurring revenue, financial performance, valuation teeter-totter, your marketing potential, your growth potential, customer satisfaction, all those drivers are important. But what we find that the biggest issue that most of our clients deal with is this idea of hub and spoke. How do I separate myself from the business? How do I have the business have a life of its own? How do I have the business work as hard for me as I've worked for it? And what we want to do is really begin to dig into, well, what does that really take? And so we've done some studies here, and I'm going to go through a few of these stats with you as we go. But I want to touch on one thing. I'm going to bring up my dear friend Mike Sherrick. But here are a few stats. So I just want you to know on and allow to sit at the background of what we're going to talk about here. So companies with hub and spoke owners, just consider this for a second. This is a result of a study we did about this concept of to what degree are small business owners beholden to their business. And what we found is that companies that where the owner, the founder is inextricably connected with the business. We asked this question: which of the following best describes the typical level of customization which you offer your customers? And so what we found is that 9% don't customize their products or services at all. And that's what we actually believe. We believe that the more you customize in your business for certain customers, the less able to scale you are. So this bears this out as or the truth of this as we go through it. So 9% don't customize of all the companies that we survey. 22% offer a complete custom solution to meet the unique needs of each customer we serve. Okay, so and these are surveys that we're making specifically of people who identify as hub and spoke. Like, yep, I'm the hub, and all decisions go through me. All the vendors, all the employees, all the issues, all the fires. Those are all the spokes. Everything has to go through me. And so when we looked at, well, what is the characteristic of that hub and spoke owner? 9% don't customize, 22% offer complete customization, 34% have a basic set of products or methodologies or services, but they often customize them for a lot of customers. So they tweak things for certain customers. And then 35% have a standard set of products, services, methodologies that they tweak slightly. Okay. So you can see the level of customization that exists with hub and spoke owners. I'll show you another one. Companies with hub and spoke owners are 2 times more likely to offer a custom solution to meet their customers' needs. Okay, so take a look at that middle bar there. Let's see if you see a theme in what we're talking about. Companies with hub and spoke owners. We asked this question: which of the following best describes the potential impact of losing a large customer? You see down at the bottom, 42% suffer a little, but they'll survive. Another 40% hardly suffer at all, but they'll survive. 16% will suffer a lot, but they'll survive. 2% will suffer a lot, and not survive. So you'll see the vast majority there suffer a lot, suffer on some level or another if you lost your largest customer. Companies with hub and spoke owners are 50% more likely to be impacted by losing their largest customer. All right. So look, I'm going to put a pause on it right there, and I'm going to bring in my man Mike here. And Mike came in on the tail end. I was just sharing with everybody the world of hub and spoke and like distinction. You and I talked a little about it yesterday, but I wanted to bring you in. And everybody, let me introduce Mike real quick. So Mike, I've known Mike for, I don't know, where are we at now, Mike? Got to be 20 years.
20 some years, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be 20 some years now. So Mike is a brilliant coach, strategist, businessman, entrepreneur. He in his latest endeavor has become a certified traction EOS implementer. So let me just kind of tell a quick story just to kind of give you the world of just how I know Mike, but B, like why our partnership is so significant. So for me, I almost went broke in my practice, and by miracle. And I'm not a woo-woo guy, but I miraculously came across 3 books, and the books that I laid out earlier, Profit First by Mike McCallowitz, and that blew me away in terms of, wow, I'm an accountant, and I still didn't have a framework for how to understand how to budget properly and how to manage cash flow inside of my operation. And as I figured that out, and as I learned that profit isn't some event, it's a habit, it's a muscle that you build. I was then turned on to Built to Sell by John Warlow, where I said, wow, now all this profit that I'm generating actually has a value that wants to be created. And now my business has a value to it. But once I started understanding the distinctions that give value, like we're talking about, the question becomes, how do I bridge the gap? Now I know how to manage my cash. Now I understand these various components that ultimately drive value. But how do I actually do it? Like I mentioned before, I'd read the E-Myth before. I understood systems and processes. I would oft repeat, hey, great businesses aren't run by great people. Great businesses are run by great systems. Having great people is great, but you want to have great systems, because on the offhand that you don't have great people, you want to make sure the systems are great. And so I was turned on to a third book, and it was called Traction. And if I'm not mistaken, Mike, you might have given me that book however many years ago.
Yeah, maybe 15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can't tell you how many people I've met who I've now recommended the book to. It's like, somebody gave me that book, but it's just been sitting on my shelf, and I'm like, look, guilty as charged. I've done the same thing. And so, for that, reason, I mean, that's what describes Mike's and my partnership right now. But I tell you, Mike and I go back years and years. He was a coach of mine in this personal development program that he and I both did years and years ago. But he's been a sounding board, and he's never stopped being my coach for all of these years. And I'm really excited because for our clients, particularly the larger ones who have a leadership team, who are looking to develop strategy, who perhaps have read or at least heard about Traction, and are looking for somebody to really guide them through the process, because as intuitive as it may be, the implementation of it sometimes takes people out. And so what Mike is absolutely expert in is showing people the way in terms of the nuances of implementing the Traction methodology. And it's perfect for the topic today, because when we talk to our clients about hub and spoke, they understand it conceptually. Like, yeah, you're right. I am the bottleneck. I am controlling or attempting to control too much of what's happening in my business's operation. I just don't know how to find good, solid leaders. Or if I do find them, I don't know how to effectively empower them to fulfill on the broader ambition of the business. And I know lots of people make lots of promises about ways in which to do that. But I assure you that Traction and the work that the Traction community does keeps its promise. And if you read it, if you implement the EOS process, you will see a breakthrough in your hub and spoke situation. And so, Mike, I invited Mike here to really talk that through with me, and likewise share it with you, so that you can have, I promise you, if you tune into what Mike's about to say, you'll have a nugget that will carry you through to whatever's next for you in terms of your next level of development in the business. So Mike is, again, absolutely expert. Mike, anything you just want to say just to be here and connect?
No, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, thank you. So just, if you would, Mike, just for the uninitiated, man, could you just say a little bit about Traction, the EOS methodology, what led you to it, and kind of what you're up to now inside of your world as an implementer?
Yeah, what led me into it, I went in it backwards.
Uh-huh.
I should have. When you talk about the fully customized business offering,
yeah,
I was kind of the poster child for that with my right?
Yeah.
And a situation occurred, and I had to sell my construction company, not by anything I did. You know? And I was woefully unprepared, and I literally got nickels on the dollar for it.
Mm.
So that was nice. I literally sold it at $3.5 million discount.
Yeah. Wow.
So, but what you were talking about earlier, the E-myth, where there's a technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
Our culture does a great job in training technicians.
Mm.
Whatever you do out there, you can become the best electrician, the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best this, the best that, right?
Yeah.
Do a pretty good job of training managers, and managers from manage and control structure, right?
Yeah.
We do a horseshit job in training entrepreneurs, and even defining what entrepreneurialism is. And what EOS stands for is the Entrepreneur Operating System. So it's actually a structure that you can utilize as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
That on one hand is not customizable, because there's a thing we call EOS purity, and it works for just about every. I've yet to see an organization that it can't work in.
Yeah.
And what it does, it frees the founder owner up so that he could actually A, become more fulfilled, but B, actually create the value he was put here on the planet to create. Yeah. Mm. And I'll give you an example. I've got one client. I've got several clients. I've got this one client who's an attorney, and it's really an attorney, right? Mm-hmm. And we just had a quarterly meeting, and we realized how much he was completely fucking himself by the construction of him actually doing the contracts. Mm-hmm. Right? Right. 30, 40 hours to write a contract on some of these complex deals. Yeah. where he could outline it in 45 minutes. And not only was he screwing himself, but he was also screwing his clients because he goes off at $600 an hour.
Yeah.
So I don't know what 40 hours times 600 is, but it's a lot of money.
It's a lot. Yeah.
And then when he could have had one of his associates at half that with the same level of product, right?
Yeah.
So is he setting himself up where the clients are getting his service as well as
yeah. It's $24,000, by the way. I just did the math.
Well, you're an accountant. You do that shit in your head. So.
Well, no, I just pulled up the calculator, man.
There you go. Yeah.
I got to do it too.
But yeah, so, the clients are paying a $12,000 premium just so he can dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was realizing, but what the real cost is, if he's getting paid $600 an hour, what's his real time worth?
Yeah.
For the firm, 10 times that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the kind of stuff you really start noticing. And then you start making decisions from there based on where it is you want to go. But that's kind of what EOS, from the ground on, that's kind of what it looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's really good. And I find that all the people that I have that are either connected to or, just staunch, followers of EOS too, there always was that kind of moment there for people where they screwed up in some way or another, and then their eyes were open to this thing. Yeah. And it really is a whole world to it. So, Mike, I wonder if you could just really start to kind of speak to, like, what are the components? Like, what's the typical path once you've had this sort of like, yeah, okay, I get it. There's this scalable operation that I could see my business as running. But how what are the steps? There are these components, right?
Yeah. Well, there's 6 key components in any business, right? Mm-hmm. There's your people.
Yeah.
There's your vision, the direction you're going, and creating alignment with that. There's the people, having the right people in the right seats.
Yeah.
There's the data component. What is it you measure, and how do you measure it, and what are the right things to measure?
Right.
From there, when you have data and people and the vision all complete, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing things you didn't see before.
Yeah.
So now, how do we deal with the issues that pop up day to day? The 136 issues that every business owner deals with, and it's always going to be there. How do we deal with them expediently, powerfully, and completely? Yeah. So there's a process for that. There's a process component, which is really, and everyone talks about they've got processes. Very few people actually have them documented. And fewer of them actually have people following them inside the organization. What that provides is actually an impact on quality. But that's when you talked about scaling, that's where the scaling part comes from. Because now we don't have to have someone overriding it all the time. We've actually got this documented. It also helps for onboarding people in that.
Yeah.
And the last part is a traction piece, which is the weekly L10 meetings where we're dealing with the business on and 60 to 90 minutes a week where we're actually working on the business.
Yeah.
And then we get together once a quarter and we really get into it. And the rest of the time is head down, let's knock it out.
Yeah.
So it takes away a lot of the noise.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think one of the things, Mike, there's so many things I love about traction. I mean, there's this idea of, and I come from the world, Mike, where when you wanted to do strategy, you needed to go, hire a big, do a hotel, get your whole team together. First of all, get a team, get your leadership team, go to some remote retreat, maybe out in the woods, and you spend 2-3 days in a conference room to figure out, okay, what do we want to be when we grow up? And so one of the things that Traction does, and just by the way, for everybody who isn't familiar, I mean, EOS stands for, what is it, Mike? Entrepreneur Operating System, right? Yeah. And the use of the words operating system is really intentional, right? Like, just think like the operating system on your phone, iOS, or think about the Windows operating system. Like, these operating systems, like, we use most of this technology, but we take for granted that there's a whole assortment of rules and instructions and technology behind this thing that we use on a day-to-day basis that produces us, for the most part, predictable, reliable results. And one of the things that this guy Gino Wickman, who wrote this book Traction, suggests is that that your business wants to have that as well. If you want a predictable set of results, you need to have a central, kind of like Mike said, an operating system at the center of it. And no matter what the business is, there are these components that are going to be at the center of it. And the first thing that I really love about Traction is this idea of what he calls the VTO, this vision traction organizer, right? Where you lay out like all the vision. Yeah, just speak to that a little bit. Just like
so what you were talking about, going to the retreat out to the Anderson complex out in St. Charles, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you'd spend 3 days there, and you produce a 50-page document. Everyone gets a copy of it in 90 days. Right. And then they put it in the top drawer of their desk, right?
Yeah, totally.
And what the VTO is basically a bullet point strategic plan.
Yeah.
It's 2 pages long that we access weekly.
Yeah.
And, and we sit down and dissect it quarterly.
Yeah.
And it has all the components. It's got the vision is clearly spelled out with the core values and core focus of the business. It's got a 10-year picture of where we really want to go, who we want to be when we grow up.
Yeah.
It's got a 3-year target of what we want to look like 3 years from now. 1-year plan. It's got a marketing strategy in there. And then we have the quarterly rocks, which are the things we're actually working on, our top priorities, and the issues that we're working on week to week.
Yeah.
And that's your VTO.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And you have this thing, which is the expression of your, and it's not like, it's not going to take you 2-3 days, but it's going to take whatever time, because it really does ask you some really cool questions. Like, what are your corporate values? What are your, what is your unique selling proposition? What is your unique position? Like, how do you do what you do? And then you break out your 10-year, your 3-year, your 1 year, your quarterly rocks, like your goals, like you were talking about, Mike.
Well, and the truth of the matter is, if you use an implementer, it's going to take you two days to go through that, because there's a lot of thinking in there and a lot of uncoupling. It's really a discovery process.
Yeah.
Because, entrepreneurs are busy and they're dealing with stuff all the time, and there's a lot of noise in the system. So we're continually extracting what's already there.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of whittling away of the stuff that doesn't make sense. And that's where it gets cleaner.
Yeah.
And simpler.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Mike. I mean, because I struggled with this for a long time, and I think I've come up with an answer for it. Like, who do you think Traction is best for in terms of size of company, construct of company? Do you think it's better for people who already have leadership teams in place, or can anybody, no matter what the size of the company, like the solopreneur, for example, is there
it's hard for solopreneurs can use it. Okay. But it's hard because one of the things you're always wanting the entrepreneur and founder to do is let go of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to want a leadership team. Now, the size of the leadership team, I've seen really highly effective leadership teams of 3 people.
Yeah.
I've got one that's got 2 people, right? Yeah. It's a bigger firm. They've got, I think, 12,
the founder and just one other person, or 2 people.
Guy, yeah.
Okay.
They could have a bigger leadership team, but they're pretty effective with the 2 guys right now.
Yeah.
So because I keep inviting them to bring more people on, because they refer to them all the time. I said, you can't talk about them if they're not here, man. They will eventually, but it's everyone does it on their own pace, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's typically, a firm that has 6 to 10 people on the small end, and you can't have firms that are too big.
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty intimate process. It doesn't work if there's a board, like corporate boards, where you need board approval. You want to have someone who can make the call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's about being nimble, right? And we're going to make decisions in the moment, and we're going to make mistakes in the moment. And that's important, because then we're going to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
And we're going to react quickly to them. And we're going to learn that this road no longer has gold down it, so we're not going to go down that road.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So it's not, the more and the more I do this, at first I thought, well, some corporations, it's not for a corporate environment.
Yeah, clear. Yeah. What would you say is your favorite, Mike? What would you say is your favorite? You don't have to name names at all. You don't even have to say the industry, just in case they ever see this and it gets out. But what if you could share a little bit about your favorite case study, like when you first started doing this, and what happened in the course of that meeting, and what your client saw at the tail end when they came out of the other end with their VTO done, with their level 10 meetings happening, with effectively having broken through kind of the hub and spoke. It's got to be all about me and through me kind of dynamic.
They're all my favorite, but one of the most recent ones is an MSP. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's he's one of these guys who reads every book known to man.
Totally. Yeah.
And he was an expert on traction.
Mm.
Right. And I'd been talking to him for 2 years. No.
If I didn't know any better, I was thinking you were talking about me there, Mike. But go on.
You guys are so similar, it's ridiculous, but it's not you. Okay.
All right, good.
You guys are really, really similar because you're both super bright. So anyway, this guy, and I got to hook you up with this guy for a lot of different reasons. But so this guy, we do the focus day, which is the first day, right? And what the focus day does, it gives you a couple things. It gives you an accountability chart, so you know where everybody's going to sit, what their core responsibilities are. It gives you a scoreboard, like what are the measures that are important. Mm-hmm. It gives you you start working on rocks, And now he's been quote unquote self-implementing for 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So and of course we got it for him. We got to do it on Saturday because he's too busy during the week.
Yeah.
Right. He's one of those guys. Right.
Totally.
Is that a hub and spoke guy or not? Right.
All day long. Yeah.
Yeah. So he comes up to me on Wednesday, like seeks me out on Wednesday, 3 days later. Dude, what? He goes, it's already paid for itself the first year. And he just got how he was the problem. Right. And it started with the accountability chart when he was involved in way too much stuff, and how people, when they were looking at their accountabilities and how their accountabilities were reporting to the guy for this and checking in on this. And he had really capable guys.
Yeah.
But just noticing how that, and so I asked him, I said, what had you be in so much control? Well, what happened is he had been in business for 20 years. 4 years after he got in business, he made a mistake, almost lost the business.
Yeah.
And then really hunkered down. Had been hunkering down for 15 years, was exhausted.
Yeah, totally.
And he just realized, I've been doing all this stuff for 15 years because of this thing that happened 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And he just kind of got freed up. And now they've been doing it now 3 months, 4 months. And that's just one guy. Another guy, I'll give you another story.
Yeah.
It's a 2-guy team, right? And they're control freaks. And so it's a real estate investment firm. And so they're rolling it out. And these guys were one of my first clients. So they're rolling it out to their team, and they got 25 people in their office, and they expected the rollout to last 15 minutes. And so they start sharing with people. They share them what their vision is, what their core values are, their core focus, what they want to do, what their 10-year picture is. And people start asking questions, The meeting went on for like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Sure.
And most everybody bitches about the length of their meetings, which is typically about a half hour, right?
Right.
And then the comment was, why didn't you do this sooner? To which the one guy, who's a friend of mine, throws me under the bus. Well, Mike didn't bring it to us till now.
Hilarious.
But that's the kind of thing, because what this does, it builds alignment to the organization. And what really good, inherent, intuitive managers and leaders will do, they'll realize that they've been bringing people in their organizations all along. They're pretty much aligned with them.
Yeah.
They just haven't communicated what alignment looks like.
Yeah, and it's almost too simple, to your point, Mike, for smart people to really get and understand. Like, everybody knows they should communicate. Everybody knows that they should scale. Everybody knows that they should grow responsibly. Everybody knows like a lot that they should measure their performance and their outcome. Everybody knows they should only hire really great people.
Yeah. But
when you start to press them and say, okay, what does that actually look like on the court in your business? It's like, well, it looks like that. Like, no. What? Like, what's the actual thing? And there's just something about the way, Mike, that VTO connects with that accountability chart. And I want you in a minute just to say a little bit about the distinction between the accountability chart and an org chart and the way we typically understand it. But the accountability chart, the scorecard, like, now for me, each and every one of my people have an answer to the question of, did you have a good week this week?
Yeah.
Oh, I do all right. My toes bother me a little bit. And my cat died, what have you, right? But this answer to the question of what metrics are you following, and how do we? Yes, we want you to have a good time. We want you to feel good, but there's an objectivity that wants to be there in every business, and how do we ultimately measure that? So Yeah, I wonder if you could just say a little bit about like just that 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 simplicity that gets across with people when they really begin to implement.
So one of the coolest things I saw happen with a scorecard, right?
Yeah.
So this guy's got a sales team in his organization. And the sales team is pretty good. They're continually growing in the low teens every year after year. It's a mature business, and that's pretty good growth. They're in the IT space. Anyway, they had some horrible numbers on the sales for a week, right?
Yeah.
So typically what'll happen is if a sales guy's got bad numbers, they'll start bad mouthing the sales guy. Oh, the sales guy's a piece of shit. He's lazy. He's this, he's that, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
that's just the way we go. It's our bias,
Yeah.
right? So they did something unusual. They asked him, why did your numbers not happen?
Yeah.
Brilliant question, right? Like,
Yeah.
holy cow, who'd have thought of that, right?
Totally.
And the guy opened up. He said, I was having a really hard time getting in this particular market. Like I could, right? So they did some investigation, and the market they were trying to get into were law firms. Well, lawyers have more gatekeepers than just about anybody.
Yeah.
So the process they were using for bankers, or the process they were using for manufacturing companies, or the process they were using for construction companies didn't work for lawyers.
Yeah.
And that's all it was. It wasn't a lack of effort. It was just the process and the structure didn't match the application or the need.
Yeah.
So they adjusted it, you know? And that's what showed, as opposed to the persecution and all the stuff, and what could have led to a firing, and someone else comes in, oh, I've got a different idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's getting underneath and getting at the root of the issue. So that's one thing. As far as the scorecard as it relates to an accountability chart, what that does, like you said, your people know if they had a good week or not.
Yeah.
That does, it puts measurable results on every role inside the organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, some roles like sales or production, there's a tangible result that's easy to get.
Yeah.
Other roles like marketing or reception or things like that, it's a little more difficult.
Yeah.
You know, but there's always some measurable result you can get engaged in.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And you measure that, and you see if the performance is going well, and are these numbers correlating, and you start noticing if you're measuring the right things.
Yeah.
Now you've got a better handle on your business.
Well, you know what I found, Mike, is that it doesn't need to be more than 2 or 3 things anyway. I mean, I think we get way too crazy, you know. And so
you can have one measure for every person. That's really all you need.
It really, I mean, one or 2 things, you know, 3 probably tops that people are actively managing. And if you could find a way, and it's not even an if, I mean, you can absolutely find a way to connect people's number or numbers to their compensation, or to some form of recognition, or to whatever registered performance that you have for people will perform. People, when they see the target and they see the gaps that are there, they will close those gaps. But when you start like top down, like, okay, here's my broad-based vision, and let me break that down all the way down into my approach, my strategy, my quarterly rocks, goals, as we call them. And then likewise, do the thinking for, okay, how do all of these connect to the actual functions within my business? Forget about fancy job titles. Like, what does my business actually do? You know, and I see your, or maybe your last client's accountability chart behind
It's our accountability. That's from yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So you have that carved out, and now you start to see like, oh, here's how my business actually works. Here's how it's designed to go together. And so to your point, okay, I want sales, but what drives sales? Well, maybe conversations drive appointments, and then appointments drive sales, and then leads drive conversations. Oh no, there's a step in there. Leads drive contacts, but contacts aren't always conversations. So I need to have this. So this many leads, this many contacts lead to this many conversations, lead to this many appointments, lead to this many sales. And if I can figure out the numbers and how these things are going to work, even on a hypothetical level, I can see the through line, and I can see the algorithm that my business is. And then it becomes a function of making sure that I have the right people managing these processes, which is, by the way, another really important thing, Mike, that actually I'm in the midst of dealing with right now. And I'll just share publicly my very personal, private dilemma, which is that up until this point, I've hired people based on how I felt and how and who they knew. Like, hey, do you know somebody who can do da da da? There wasn't very much of a process that I would take people through in vetting them to have them be a member of my team. And fortunately, we're at a place now in our business where I can't do that anymore, because the right person can come, or the wrong person rather, can come in and completely tank everything that I'm up to right now, and everything that
what's dangerous about you
Mm-hmm.
is the wrong people that you bring in are highly talented.
Oh,
it's not you're bringing in a bonehead. You're bringing in a really bright,
really talented, really smart folks.
Really smart folk.
Yeah.
We're not going to quite call him Adolf Hitler, but we're talking like that kind of impact.
Yeah.
And it can really hurt, man.
Yeah. And that's really it. And so, and it could be smart enough to be dangerous, kind of thing, like smart enough but not necessarily skilled, but they're smart enough to lie about what they were skilled about. They could be very skilled and have some chemistry, some fundamental kind of personality flaw that's there. And so, this, or they there's this really cool concept in traction, this GWC: get it, want it, have the capacity for it. Just wonder if you could just say a little about that, man, and what has that be?
Yeah, no, I think that right there, like when you're interviewing someone, that's the biggest deal. So get it. Do they get what you're doing? Do they fundamentally understand the business you're in?
Yeah.
The way you generate value. Are they aligned? Do they want what you got? Do they want to be part of it? Do they want to come in and knock it out? And the most important one, and the one where I see most of the breakdown and people step over because they got the first two, is capacity for it. And capacity is all encompassing. It's, do they have the time to do it? Or they got 3 other jobs they're doing, or going to school all the time or something like that? Do they have the health and well-being to do it?
Yeah.
Do they have the family situation to do it?
Yeah.
Do they have the ability to get to work to do it?
Yeah.
And that's usually where most of the breakdown comes from, that people don't understand what capacity means. We think about, well, yeah, they've got the degree in this and this and this. It's way more than that,
Yeah.
It's, can they actually show up and deliver day in, day out, And if you ask people questions directly, they'll give you the answer you need to hear.
Totally.
But we tend to step over because we fall in love, or we see a cool resume, or wow, they're bringing something I would really nice to have. That would be cool.
Yep.
And that's really, but that the GWC is at the core. And then if you match that up with your core values, you can train anybody to do anything.
Yep.
People nobody's a natural born brain surgeon. People get trained to be brain surgeons.
Yeah.
If they can do that, you can train them to do what you need done in your job. But are they aligned with what you're doing?
Yeah. That's the key. Who are your best clients, Mike? Like, who do you love to work with? Who are your favorites? What can you tell us about if somebody's listening to you and they're like, man, I really want to work with that Mike guy, but I'm just not sure if I'm ready for him yet.
I like people that are growth oriented. They really want to grow. I really enjoy people that kind of are edgy but question themselves.
Good.
That's kind of like my jam. You can't intimidate me. So I like the edgy ones that will challenge things.
Have you read Good to Great, Mike?
Oh yeah, about 10 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm rereading it now, and I'm just this level 5 leader is hitting me newly.
Yes.
Like the self-effacing, but like with edge. Yep.
And they know what they know, and they know what they don't know.
Yeah.
And they're good with all of it, and they sign up on zero BS. And there's kind of a prove it to me sometimes, which I actually love.
Yeah.
Because I don't know it all.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to work.
So
let's put it together.
Yeah.
And so that's that. I'm absolutely industry agnostic. I don't care what you do, as long as it's morally correct.
Of course.
But I'm really like growth oriented, kind of edgy, want to have some fun. Sense of humor is really important to me.
Yeah. It would have to be with you, Mike.
It would have to be.
Right.
And a little bit thick skinned in that they're capable of having a direct conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get too confrontational with people, but I will call, balls and strikes,
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit here and worry if I can't say that because you'll get offended or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's it. Size of companies, anywhere, like I said, anywhere 6, 8 people on the small end to, I really like companies that are 100 and less.
Yeah.
Because because the leadership teams are engaged in the business and wanting to blow up.
Yeah.
And that's what I look for.
Yeah.
They're more interesting problems at that size.
Yeah. Clear. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. Well, that's right in line, as you know, with what we're after.
Well, yeah,
too, and
we have the same target market. Absolutely.
Yeah. And just really and for everybody watching, just as far as we go, as far as P&G advisors go, I mean, there are 3 levels that we like to work with our clients on. I mean, number one is at a basic level where, so everybody who works with us, you get a clean set of books. If you want us to do your taxes, we'll do that as well. But we take you through our Profit First process as well as our Value Builder program. And that's fundamental to who it is and what we are and what we do with our clients. The only difference between what we call our mastermind level of working with us is, and our Value Builder aspect of working with us, is the number of times we meet. We like to meet with our clients once a month, but if that doesn't work for our clients for whatever reason, we say, hey, look, join our mastermind, and you get to meet with not just us, but all of our clients who are also at that mastermind level, and you get to learn as much from them, I believe, as you do from us. And that's one. But there are certain other businesses who already have a leadership team going, or at least the makings of one. Doesn't necessarily matter how big, but they're clear that they need and want the implementation of the EOS methodology in their business sooner than later. And those types of folks, I kick over to Mike and let him take it from there. So as a part of working with us in that capacity, you also get Mike, and with that, you'll get your 90-minute initial assessment. You'll get these 2 vision builder all day sessions, like what Mike was talking about earlier, and then you get these quarterly sessions as well. Did I miss anything, Mike?
The focus day.
The focus day, right? So you get the focus day, Vision Builder 1, Vision Builder 2, and then the quarterly sessions thereafter. So if you believe you're in that space, and you're kind of like, the way I call it, what I call what you just described, Mike, was I love the messy middle clients. Mm-hmm. Like, these are the ones who, look, they started their business. Now the business is paying the bills. Yeah. Now the business is paying the bills. Now they have a couple of employees who they're supporting. Now they've gone for a couple of other employees they're supporting, to the fact that they have like some real accountabilities and some real overhead and some real commitments. And they know that it's no longer the case that they can have a bad or super off month anymore, because everything can go to hell in a handbasket. But they also know they can't walk into a bank. They can't have an honest conversation with an investor. Why? Because the numbers just don't quite bear it out. They're not as profitable as they need to be. They don't have the systems, the processes, the structure, the framework that they need. And they know they need something. What got them here won't get them there. And they're kind of stuck, foot nail to the floor. Those people, that's what I call the messy middle.
I think there's one other component in there with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
They have that, but they're also beginning to see like a bigger position for themselves in the marketplace.
Yeah.
They've learned there's something they do better than the other guys, and this is why they're still around, and nobody crushed them.
Yeah.
And now they're starting to go, man, I'd really like to do more of that. How do we get there?
Totally.
Yeah. So I think that's the part where they really start believing in themselves.
Yeah.
But don't know what that looks like.
Totally. Yeah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Well, those are the folks. So if you find yourself in that category, give us a call. Check us out, profitandgrowth.com, or give us a call, 888-227-8790. And we'd love to just talk that through with you and begin the process for helping you to scale your operation. So Mike, man, thank you so much for hopping on with me and sharing some nuggets. We're just going to have to keep this going, man. And thank you for doing this as last minute, everybody. I just hit Mike up last night and they're like, hey, man, can you do this thing with me? Sure. But I
just saw one of your boys, man. That's where I was. I was having lunch with Paul McMickle.
Did you? Paul, what's he up to these days? What's he doing?
He's old, number one.
Yeah,
he's been dealing with some health issues, but he looked great, man.
Yeah,
it was cool to see.
Good. Yeah, you didn't look well last time I saw him, but
He's been
he was
dealing with
fine.
some really serious health issues, but he
Yeah.
looked good. He went skiing in the winter, so that's
Oh, well, there you go. That's it. That's an indication of him being well, better than when I last saw him, apparently. So
yeah.
man,
No, it was
if you
good to
talk,
see him though.
if you talk to him again, give him my best, man. I might reach
I
out to
will,
him
man.
too.
I
Yep.
will.
All right, Mike. Love you, buddy. Appreciate it, man.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks.